Hey everybody, I am Tommy and this is Surfer of Life.
The number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
Today's guest is a former professional figure skater, Oula Jääskeläinen.
Hey.
You have been competing a lot and you are 5 times Finnish national champion, 2-time Nordic bronze medalist, pirouetten silver medalist. You have participated 10 times in European Championships, 9 times in World Championships, and also in the 1992 Olympics in Albertville. You were skating 12 years in Hot Ice Show in Blackpool, UK, and now you work as a coach in Capetown, South Africa. Oula, welcome to Surfer of Life.
Thank you very much, Tommy. Thank you very much. It's nice to be here, and hello to all the listeners.
We are quite near. It seems like we're in the same room. We have only 15,000 kilometers separated here from Helsinki to Cape Town.
Is that all it is? It always seems a lot closer when I come home. 2-day trip to come and see the parents. It's not that bad, is it?
No, it's not bad at all. And I just checked from some website, it only takes something like 200 hours or whatever if you take a car.
Oh, that's not
But anyways, the funny part... No, the funniest part is that only we actually have a 1 hour time difference, so that's kind of amazing.
Yeah, normally when I used to train or compete, I always get so used to having about 8 or 9 hours difference. So you always have to look at the clock before you ring your friends or parents at home. But this is actually quite good. You just pick up the phone and you know they're going to be awake when you're awake and they're going to be asleep when you're asleep.
That's true. Hey, Cape Town and South Africa is well known from its vino. So, if I come over, is there any recommendations for me for, let's say, for red wine that you would tell me which is good?
Oh, I could recommend you red or white or even rosé. Yes, the wine is very good in South Africa. And, well, that's probably one of the reasons why I actually enjoy living in Cape Town, the food and wine. You do have to have a social life as much as, burning your candle on the ice, shouting at the children. But I would recommend probably for you is, South Africans are well known is a pinotage. And pinotage is their own little wine that they have created over here, actually in Stellenbosch, which is about 35-40 minutes away from my house.
Right, that sounds good. I have to write that down. So maybe I find something here in Finland also. Of course, it's not the same than over there. But hey, let's go to your career as a skater. And I always like to know the history of persons I'm interviewing. And also you have a history for sure. And I know that you started skating already when you were 7. What actually took you to figure skating?
I think like most of the Finnish kids, when they're a little young, we still, not as much as we used to years ago when we got good winters, we had the lakes that froze over and you used to have little outdoor skating rinks where, your parents always took when you're a little kid. And I think all the Finns know how to skate basically forward and backwards. But when I was 7 years old, my sister was a skater, so I always had to copy everything my older sister did. And my parents asked if I would be interested in skating, and I said, yeah, why not? So I gave it a little go, and if I was any good, then they said I can carry on. And this is 40 odd years later, I'm still involved with skating.
Was it an instant passion when you got on skates? Of course, at the beginning it's difficult, but when you actually were able to skate, did you feel like this is really the thing? I love it.
When I got to the point where I knew how to do certain tricks, and when I was good at it, I loved it. But when you have to learn something new, and the hard work wasn't my favorite thing to do. So, but working hard, you eventually learn how to do it right. So I think I still got the passion for skating, and I had it for many, many years. There might have been when I was a teenager that you had a few years and days that you weren't quite happy to be a so-called figure skater.
How early did you start to compete?
I can't actually really remember when I started competing. Probably when I would say when I was 9 years old. So 2 years after I started. And it wasn't really serious competition. It was just sort of more of like an exhibition competition. And it wasn't the difficult jumps and spins you had to do. But it was, you were introduced to like compete and being judged, I guess, at young age. So so it wasn't a big thing when you get a little bit older to get in front of the people. Because I think when you're younger, it's easier to do a lot of things that are new than when you get older. And then the nerves hit there and you don't trust your body as much as you do as a kid, because as a child, you don't overthink like you do as an adult.
In that way of thinking, do you think that kids should start competing pretty early? Like you said, then you get used to it and it's not so big of a thing when you're older.
I think it is. It's good to put the kids to compete early, because I think nerves are something that only comes in the later stage. And you get used to it for the nerves or how to deal with the nerves when you're a lot younger. And the people around you will help you with the nerves as well to make it like the competition is normal, instead of making it the end of the world if you don't do well.
How were you at the start? Were you nervous when there was competition, or were you feeling comfortable already at the beginning?
I wasn't very good with my nerves, actually. I used to not be able to sleep the night before. And I think it was because you knew how well you could actually do and compete, and you always want to do your best. And then you start doubting yourself. But I actually got some sports psychologists helped me to deal with my nerves. And that was a great help. And I think a lot of athletes nowadays, there's a lot of pressure and stress. So any outside help is always good to have.
I think you had a sort of an advance, I think, because I haven't heard when I used to play ice hockey. I never heard about like mental coaching or anything, but I guess you had it already early days, and that sounds really good. Am I right? You had it already. Somebody, like you said, were helping you out.
Yeah, and I think it had a lot to do with it, because I did most of my training in Canada, and I think they are way advanced when it comes to figure skating in those days, in 1980, early 80s to early 90s. And sports psychology was a big thing over there to actually help the top athletes to deal with the pressure and their nerves and all the different exercises that you have to actually do. And we never did that when I was in Finland or training in Finland. But nowadays, I think it is a pretty big part of it, especially if you are in the singles sports where you have to deal with your own motions on yourself, and it's not so much as a team sport. So I think the sports psychology played a big part in my career.
This is a good example that we actually, athletes really do need it, and it's getting bigger now here in Finland. But still, I think it's lack of mental coaching still exists here a lot, and especially in Finland, as far as I've seen here. You already mentioned Canada. What took you to Canada, and when did you go there? What age?
When I was 14 years old, that's when I went first time to Canada. But when I was the year before that, I actually did a summer school in America when I was 13 years old. So my mom and dad just took me to the airport, and there I was flying Finnair all the way to New York on my own. And somebody helped me to change planes to go to Cincinnati. And then there was a family I was staying with. They were over there at the airport picking me up. I didn't know what they looked like. They just heard what I looked like. So that was my first experience to traveling overseas. And the year after that, I went to train in Canada. And the reason simply being is they had the coaching knowledge, and the skaters that train overseas were high standard skaters. So I could actually see all the triples being trained and being part of me everyday routine. So it wasn't like I had to watch it on, we didn't have a YouTube those days either. So trying to watch old films and people trying to do triples. So I'm actually was very good at learning when I could visually learn things. So there's all of us learn differently, and I was more of a visual learner than anything else.
Yeah. 14 years of age and you went there. Did you go there by yourself?
Yes, I did. And I wasn't very good at speaking English. You wouldn't guess that right now. But when I got there, I only knew a few words, and they weren't always the nicest words, but that's what the kids first learn. And my first language that I actually learned in school was Russian. And one of the things my mom said to me, if I want to train overseas, I have to learn English. So I had a quick crash course of 2 months of learning some basic English words. So I don't know how much of help it was to do with skating, knowing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So that was it. So, but I survived, and I'm still alive.
You seem to have been a very brave kid, if I think about it. 14 years there, and like you said, there were no YouTubes, there were no internet, nothing. It was the connection back home was quite difficult, actually. Maybe a phone call, and for sure it was quite expensive. Also. Can you remember those times? You were 14. Can you remember that flight when you took off, when you kind of left your home when you were 14 years old? How did it feel?
I think it was actually quite scary, because when I was the year before, when I was in America, my sister was training already there. So I had somebody over there that could sort of help me. But going to Canada, you were only on your own. And I don't know, my mom always gave me a good advice that when you were younger, you do get homesick. But they said, whatever happens, within 24 hours, you can always be home if things get that bad. So I always knew that. And if I ever needed to talk to my mom, I knew I just had to pick up the phone and make a collect call, and she paid for the call.
That's a good advice. You're always going to be home in 24 hours. Sounds good. Do you think this was already kind of developing your mindset and your mental focus and your nerves when you went there by yourself, this young age, that you really learned to cope with the sort of a fear and excitement in early age already?
Yeah, it just sort of helps in life. And I think that's why it's easy for me to move from one place to another, because I know it's not always forever. And if things don't work out, you can always move on or make a change in your life. But to deal with all the pressure at a young age, it has helped me in life. Yes.
In Canada, you mentioned that there was this sort of mental coaching was already involved in the North America. How about other methods? Was there any difference if you think about the practicing in the States compared to Finland back in the days?
I think we did a lot of off-ice training as well. It wasn't that big in Finland. We had like seasons in Finland where you had more of an off-ice training, and then during the season you had on-ice. But when we trained in Canada, it was all year round. It's just the way the periodization that it was organized over there is when you actually train harder or less. And a lot of the things still in Canada, they specialize people that are actually specialized teaching spins. Then there's a technique for the jumps. There's the edge, quality for steps and turns, and there's choreographers. So you had about 4, 5, 6 different coaches, and they all were specialized in one thing. And I think a lot of the times in smaller countries, like in Finland, we should be very proud to have such a great skaters coming from there, because the coaches have to do most of it all themselves. So we almost have to know it all. So you have to know about nutrition, you have to know off ice, on ice, and we are the mental coaches for our kids as well.
That is true. What about you? Now you work as a coach. Have you kind of did you suck these ideas from early age already? Did you learn from there? Of course, you were a skater. You weren't the coach yet. But did you have these on your mind when you started coaching?
Yeah, I do have.
Needs to be there.
Yeah, I use a lot of it, what I learned in Canada. Of course, the technique has changed, but just the way of teaching with the kids. I think you just look at it, what worked for me with the different coaches, and I'm trying to work. Every single kid is different. So I was lucky enough to work with quite a few coaches. So you just have to work and figure out what is best for that child to, learn and teach. Are they the ones that you need to push a little bit harder, or are they the ones that, make it a little bit more fun? Is it somebody you have to be more positive about? So I think coaching is a quite challenging, job for a lot of people.
Yeah. In Canada, when was the first time you saw your parents again? You told me you're 14 years old and you go all the way to Canada. Did it take a long time before you met your parents again?
No, it wasn't so bad, because the first time I only stayed there for 5 to 6 months. And because I had to still come back, to school, and I needed to finish school in Finland. And we can't, as you know, not finish school till you're age of 16 and grade 9. So I still always had to go. So I missed the first couple months of school. So I had to work a little bit harder. But it was a small sacrifice, to stay a little bit longer in Canada, to come back home to Finland and study a little bit harder.
And I guess you had hunger to go back because you spent there 8 years. Am I right?
Yeah, it was just one of those things that long as I was training hard and proving and school was going okay, my parents always said, they were willing to take the mortgage and send me over. And hopefully the results showed that they made the right decision.
Well, that's good commitment. Me as a parent, I for sure can learn from that. 1985, you won the first Finnish national championships. How did it feel?
I have to say I didn't really have that much of a competition. And 1985, if you asked me what was the program, what did I do in it, I couldn't actually remember. It was just one of those things that it was one of my first steps to become something bigger. So I knew that was the way of moving forward to, the national title. And 1985, I think there were bigger things that I was actually more happy about and more impressed. That 1985 rings a bell.
Yeah, and it's just a while ago.
It's just a few years back, but actually 1985 was the year I actually went first time ever to Junior Worlds. And I just remember every year I tried to go to Junior Worlds, the federation put a higher standard for the skaters to go there. And I'm very lucky to have my mom, that she's a strong woman. And she just put her foot down, and she says she even pays my own way and my coach's way to go to America to compete. Because I don't think that the Finnish people or the federation really believed that the skaters could do as well as they will or did those days. And actually coming 7th overall in Junior Worlds was just an eye-opener. And I think after that competition, I started getting more support from my federation.
You think you grew mentally when it was the year 1985, it was a successful year, or did you feel more pressure after that when you were more successful?
I think it was 85. I was wanted to show what I can do, and I didn't have anything to lose. So I don't think there was that much pressure. It's always the year after that when you have to do better. You put the pressure yourself. So I think the years that came ahead, you just put more pressure. And that's why I think a lot of athletes, they have their ups and downs. It's just because they do it to themselves instead of just not putting the pressure and just do what they know and do their best.
You also were competing in World Champs later as a senior, and you get a 1998 pirouette and silver medal in Norway, and you were in European Championships many times. Can you separate those games if they are World Championships or European Championship or this pirouette? And did you feel different in the competition Soon we go to the Olympics soon, but let's talk about these first. Did it feel different when maybe it's European and then it's World Championships? It's a bigger competition. Did it affect you as an athlete?
I didn't really feel a big difference between Europeans or Worlds because they both to me were a big competition. Because Worlds were always the highlight of the year for the athletes, for the showcase, and the Europeans was the second biggest one. And those are the two big competitions that, all since I was a little kid, I used to watch on TV, and now it's just being part of it. You just knew that you have to try to do your best because your friends are going to be watching on TV, and there's going to be a few critics out there that going to have their opinion. So you just have to try and do your best and not make, wonder in your head what people are going to think.
How was it in Canada when you were junior? Were there already spectators up in the seats watching your skate?
Yeah, it's like when I got used to having people watching because there's a lot of time that people come and watch people practice. The parents are over there or friends, so you constantly know that there's people around. So when you go over to the competition, so I just look at it that there's a few more friends and family members over there in the audience, and I always enjoyed performing. So I didn't really take much pressure on that part. I just hope that I land on my feet instead of my backside.
So a big audience actually in the European champs and world champs and later in also in the Olympics actually made you sort of like perform better because you loved the audience. Am I right?
Yeah, that's for me. Is I always, when I started skating, I wanted to do something different. I almost got to where I wanted to do one piece and sort of tell the story. Instead of you looking at the days when I was skating, there was the skaters that just all pieces of music were mixed together and nothing made sense. But nowadays there is themes that people want to skate to and make it more artistic. I always looked at it that we had skaters and we all did technically the same thing. How are you going to stand out? And I thought, well, you got to go and artistically prove yourself, which was the second mark when we used to have two different marks on the 6.0 system. And so I would actually say I was more the artistic instead of the technical skater those days.
Later, 1992, you went to the Olympics, and for athletes, I guess, at least Olympics is the biggest event in the world. Did it feel different than the other competitions?
It sure did. It did. And nobody can prepare you for Olympics or how it's going to make you feel. For example, you always hear about Olympics. It only happens every 4 years. And to be actually presenting your country is already a privilege. But when you step on that ice and you're all by yourself and all you can see is the 5 rings, the Olympic rings, you just think, oh my God, I've actually made it. And your mind just does play tricks on you on that when you're in the middle of the ice and you look around, there's all the TV cameras, the press, the full audience, like it's sold out. And then you're standing in the middle and you look at it about 20, 30 meters away is your coach standing and you just think, what am I doing? So that was actually one time that I know the nerves really got to me.
How did you cope with it? Did you have sort of methods or something for your mind? How did you cope with it?
I actually, it was the first day I was competing and I knew that I could do well. And I remember I got on the ice and they called my name and all of a sudden they decided to do the Mexican wave in the audience, and it just started and the noise got louder and louder. So I lost my concentration, and even my coach said they were screaming on top of their lungs to get my attention to come over and just I went into a place that I'd never been before, meaning mentally, that I was just like a deer in the headlights. And next thing I just stood over there, I heard my name somewhere being called, and I started the program and I didn't do my best. So of course I got very upset, but I was prepared for the long program, so I did a little bit better the next day. I was lucky enough to qualify for the long program because you have to qualify nowadays to actually do both programs. I just wish I would have done a little bit better the first day.
The Mexican wave, what can you expect? Like you said, it was different in the Olympics.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting. Normally, like people think the figure skating it's like tennis. It's, you stay calm and it's classy and a little bit of posh. And then all of a sudden there's things and you can start hearing the drums, and you're thinking, what's going on? This is not what I'm used to. So nobody actually prepared me to experience anything like that. So that sort of was a little bit outside of the box for my liking.
Memorable moments for sure.
It sure was. The whole experience was very memorable.
Mm-hmm. Let's cut these competitions a little bit in smaller pieces. Did you have some kind of tradition or a method? So what did you do to prepare yourself for the competition?
We were like in our skating, in the figure skating, we have literally almost like a minute schedule when we do. They tell you exactly what minute the warm-up starts or what time you go on the ice. So we are pretty set what time everything starts. So we can actually plan our day pretty easily. So we go and practice in the morning, normally go back to the hotel, have a rest, eat a little bit, and then just either watch something on TV or go out for a walk and just trying to get your mind out of your performance. So you don't actually think about the whole day, because mentally, I think if you keep constantly thinking about the skating, you just mentally can't be sharp enough when it's the time to go and compete. And normally I just go to the ring, do your warm up, and the only thing is I gotta go and put my left skate on always. That was sort of superstitious little thing. So that was it. But no other routines other than that. Just trying to keep it as normal as possible.
What about during the performance? How did you stay focused? Do you have any time to think anything, or it just goes with the flow? How does it go?
It's pretty much goes with the flow, because you've done those programs so many times, during the year, like hundreds of times. And that one day you go out there and you think, well, this is it. It's like a normal day. We all have nerves, more or less. And it's a weird feeling, because you get on the ice for our warm-up, which is 6 minutes. And I would say 99% of the times I felt like they weren't my legs that were on the ice. I was like, okay, well, why does it feel really weird? You have 6 minutes trying to get your legs feeling all right. And then you either go and skate first or whatever number you skate. And you get on the ice and you totally forget about everything when the music hits, because you just go into that moment and the music just carries you through the whole program.
What about if you fail during that performance? If you, let's say,
and I did that plenty of
you
times.
fall down. Yeah. How do you recover from that and do the rest of the show and your performance good after falling down? Is it difficult?
When I was a kid, I still remember falling one of the easiest things on the ice. And this is one of my first competitions when I was competing. I just remember leaving the ice crying because I was so upset that I fell on this wonderful trick that I just learned. And it was supposed to be the biggest thing in the program, but it wasn't even difficult. And I think that was the last time I ever, sort of had a tear over a program. But then you fall so many times when you do and train and skate. So it's almost a routine. You get up and you just carry on. And I think for the spectators, like somebody falling on the ice, it's more of a bigger deal than for the athlete itself, because we train every day and we fall every day. We just get up and carry on. Just like in life, you fall, you get up and you carry on.
I understand. What about this is always been interesting for me, that after you've been skating and you go and sit on that bench and you're kind of waiting for the judges to give you the score, how exciting is that moment?
You mean it's called actually a kiss and cry? Yeah, that area we call it, in the skating world, it's called the kiss and cry. I think nowadays because the judging system is a little bit different. It's you sit there and it's actually exciting because you're trying to go and beat your personal best, and you know what you've done, and you sort of calculate it in your head what your mark should be. And then you're just sort of waiting to hope that you're going to get the marks that you deserve. So, and then hope the other ones skate it well, but not as well as you. So you actually place a little bit better.
What about it's a judging system and there are really persons to judge you? How difficult is to cope with the situation that you knew that you did actually, in your own mind, you did better than you got your score?
At some point, considering that I was coming from a small country and, we didn't normally have great skaters from Finland. And it took a couple of years to actually prove that we can have skaters that come from a small country. Like right now, the world champion from, Spain. It's like, there you go. It's just looking at a small country like that. Who would ever thought that we have a world champion in figure skating, from Spain? And for me, because I trained in Canada as well, I was actually quite lucky because there was a lot of judges and coaches that, saw me overseas in America, in Canada. So they knew that my training was a little bit different instead of being in Finland for a couple hours a day.
Okay.
It's a hard sport because, like being judged, nobody likes to be judged because we all get judged every day and we all like to be liked one way or the other. Some people don't really care if they're liked or not. But to do what you do as a job and as an athlete, you want the appreciation and recognition for the hard works and the hours that you put in there. And if you sit there and then somebody's just saying, nah, that's not good, it always is a little bit soul destroying.
Yeah, for sure it is. Sorry, I was interrupting you before. This is actually, to be honest, it's a little bit hard because I can't see you. It's like we are on the phone. So sorry, you were continuing and I was stopping a little bit. Sorry about that.
No, it's all right. That's what it is. It's like, it's like on the phone. And we're not going to be doing this interview saying, over, your turn.
No way. No, we're not.
Yeah.
Well, you've been in the World Championships, European Championships, big competitions, Olympics, but everything hasn't been that perfect. I think it was 1988, you were not selected in the Olympic team from Finland. Yep. Were you expecting that you're going to be in those Olympics?
Yes, I actually was. And the disappointments, like in my sporting career, I have a couple. And that was one of them because, I was good enough in everybody else's eyes to go and compete. And then it was the federation and the Olympic Committee of our country that sort of said, no, we're not selecting a male figure skater to go and present. And it was very hard because when I was training in Canada and most of my friends went and competed at the Olympics in 88. So that was sort of hard to be in a training facility where everybody left and they had a big send-off and you just almost stayed on your own there. And, you just have to deal with it and just think that, well, I guess there's always another 4 years in your life. And I was lucky enough to be young enough that I can carry on.
I think it's very good that we bring this up because there's a lot of people who are not involved in sports, who are just watching it. They might not understand really what's going on behind the scenes because there are many times these kind of situations that you actually are good enough to compete, but there's something else that just people just don't let you do what you're capable of doing. So it's just it's very wrong, and it's very difficult for the head and for the mind to understand that.
Yeah, and I think those days as well, it was very political. And to understand as an athlete, and I was a child still, and consider myself being a child, a young boy, to just nobody could give me a right or good enough answer why I wasn't selected or why I wasn't being sent to go to Olympics. And that was sort of hard for me because you didn't get an answer to it. It was just like, well, we're not sending you, and that's all you need to know.
Did you get any help during that time? How were you able to push further from that disappointment?
I had a great coaching staff and friends when I was in Canada, and I have to say my parents always been very supportive. And without them, I don't think I would have just probably given up. And I got great help from all of them. And they looked at it from a different side and positive side. And, they gave me good advice, not just, about training or, the disappointments in life, but about everything. So I think you learn when you get those knockbacks that you might learn actually more from them instead of everything given you on a silver spoon.
And this was not the only time, if I understand right. It happened again. Can you tell me about it?
Yeah, it was 92 when I got to go to the Olympics. And I was actually at that age thinking that, am I going to be actually quitting skating now and turning professional and start making a career out of it? But then, because that was the year when they decided to change the Summer and Winter Olympics, that they are every 4 years, but they alternate. So it's every 2 years, it's summer, and every 2, and this 2 years later it's winter. So the winter sport was going to be in 2 years' time. So what I did was I decided to go and stay on for another 2 years. Because of that, I was going to still stay on for the Europeans. And in 93, I actually did pretty well at World Championships. So I qualified even a judge from our country to go and judge at the Olympics. And in early 94, I had actually one bad skate. And because of that one bad skate, I got told that I'm not going to Olympics. And I think that was the hardest, hit that I had in my sporting career, that you actually stuck around long enough and you were good enough just earlier to get your judge even to be judging in your category. And then they just turned around and said that, nah, you're not going to be good enough to go.
That is nasty.
Yeah.
And one skate, like you said. Yeah. Was this the reason that you stopped competing?
That was one reason that I stopped competing. The other one I stopped competing was when I won the nationals that year, and they decided to send the guy who came second to Worlds, saying that he needed the experience because he was younger. And I just sort of had the experience that, okay, I think my time is up and I need to start finding something else instead of start fighting against the political issues that I can't do anything about. And lucky enough, I got a phone call and a job offer. So, I had a good guardian angel, I think, that just sort of said, you know what, one door shuts, there's always a window you can get out of.
You think that's, well, you said it pretty much already, that you learn during your life, and when you get these bad moments, you actually grow yourself a bigger person. You think these are the reasons? They were pretty rough decisions from the political point of view, but you think they actually made you the person you are nowadays?
Oh, definitely. I look at life totally differently because of this, and you can't always, like I say, please everybody, and you can choose to be either the survivor or the victim. And a lot of athletes, you look at them and read about them and see them, and they can't survive after their careers or if they have a bad season, and how their life actually goes just bad to worse. And you see that every day. But I think I just got stronger, and I thought, you know what, you just got to carry on with life.
Very glad to hear this, because I've heard a lot of these stories that after the career it's tough, very tough times, many years, and it's very difficult to find anything passionate in life. And for many athletes, as we know, as you said, there's a hard struggle, and for very sad stories you occasionally hear about the athletes that they just couldn't push through with the bad situation.
And
but you can have.
But I think there's a lot of it's actually. I think there's a lot to blame that you can actually you don't get any support as an athlete after you finish, and I think there should be a bigger and greater support from the federations and from the sporting, companies or whoever that you deal with, because all these kids that go and skate and train, they don't know anything else other than the sport that they are in. And after they finish, it's just like, what do they do with their life? It's just like part of their life just sort of died. But I stayed with the sport, so I'm very lucky. So I had a good guidance, and I went the directions that I choose to take. But there's a lot of athletes that don't know where to go after they finish. Like, they haven't finished their education from school. There's no jobs, and they don't have anything to do with the sport anymore. So it's just like they're almost like lost souls at that point.
Do you think there should be more people working on that set, that there should be people helping out the athletes after their career right away when they finish?
Oh, I think so. Or even prepare them before they finish, that there's a transparent time that they actually realize when they go and they have help or somebody to talk to about, how they feel and how they, frustrations or whatever they do to carry on with life. And I think because you, as an athlete, you train some of them like 8 hours a day or more. And that is your day. It's like a job. And then it's almost like you get fired from your job, and then you just don't know what to do next. So I think it would be a good idea to get some kind of support, like an athlete's support in the right place, and have the right people to sort of give you guidance and help.
I've heard that we are actually going to a better path on this, that there are some people working on that, but it's still in minor boots, to be honest. But I hope it's getting bigger year after year.
Yeah, because you read too, like you said, you read so much about some top athletes that you would think that their life is set, that you win a couple gold medals in, Olympics, and you just realize that they're bankrupt, or life is just shattered, and you read about it, years later down the line, and thinking, oh my God, whatever happened to so-and-so? And then you go, oh no. And it's happened in figure skating. There's a lot of people that have been, world champions, and then just, mostly in America, but they live in their trailers. And there's just like no jobs, and because they just don't know where to go and how to live.
That's really sad, to be honest. It's really sad. And it's in different variation of sports. But it's glad it's coming out more often, but still it's sort of a kind of like a shadow that they keep this issue in shades in many countries and in many sports still. But it's good that we are bringing it out here for the listeners to understand.
Yeah, I think what it is, it's like a lot of people don't like to talk, like you said, about the shadows, but like to me, it's just part of life. You got to know what the good and the bad is to actually know how to make things better.
For you, it went good. You already mentioned that you get a phone call and a job offer, and you ended up in UK. Can you tell me about that?
Well, it was just one of those phone calls, and they literally said to me, it's like, can you be here in a week's time? And I said, well, can I actually get 24 hours to think about it if I want to be there in a week's time? And I had to make a couple phone calls and decisions. I wanted to talk to people that were close to me and supported me. My Finnish coach, Annalisa Uotila, my coach, Doug and Michelle Lee in Canada, of course, my mom and my close friends. And I just wanted to say what the opportunities that I had and what their thoughts were. Should I actually go and skate for another year, trying to prove that I can do it? Or shall I just go out there and turn professional and actually make a living? And we looked at the pros and cons, and they asked how I felt. And I just think mentally I can train for another year. And they say, you just answered your question yourself. So they didn't push me one way or the other. They were going to be supporting me no matter what my decision was. And then a week later, I got on that flight and I was in the UK.
Blackpool.
Yes, out of all the places in the world, I decided to go to Blackpool. I was thinking, couldn't it be like in London or Manchester or somewhere even a little bit warmer like Spain? But I have to say, Blackpool, it's still, the show's running. It's been running way over 80 years, and it's the oldest ice theatre, purposely built ice theatre that's in the world. So I'm part of the history, and I'm still involved with the part of the history.
That's crazy. So long time already, and hey, it's great to be part of the history, for sure. And you spent there actually 12 years. Yeah,
I did the show for 12 years, and then I got to the age where I just think my body can't do this, because it was very difficult to do 2 full shows almost every day. So you're looking at doing 11 shows a week, and they are 2 hours long, and you are doing about 16 to 18 numbers per show. So your wear and tear in your body is just quite a lot. So I got to the point where I had an injury that last year, and I realized that I couldn't be doing that for another year, and it was a time that I needed a break.
That's a crazy amount of shows. How many, like performing wise, how many shows did you have per year? How many months did you actually do the show?
Those days we did actually, the rehearsals normally started in March, and it went all the way till November. And then you normally had a little bit time off before you did like the Christmas show somewhere where you got booked. And that was normally 2.5 months. And then sometimes you went all the way through. Like I did one contract that was 18 months all the way through. And the only day off you got was on a Sunday. So you did quite a bit of work over there on those days, when it's not as glamorous as people think it is.
Did you use the same mentality when you're doing those shows than when you were skating and competing? Of course, now there were way more shows that there are spectators, many times a day already.
All I can say is I wish I had the mentality when I was doing the shows I had when I was competing. I think you learn so much from the shows to actually what skating is about, instead of just training every day and doing it hard. I learned to actually enjoy skating more, and I learned the quality of skating when I was working in the shows, because you spend so much time on the ice, constantly performing. So there was less training, more performing. And I think that for me, and being probably the fittest I ever was in my whole career, was when I worked in the shows.
How were you able to handle it physically? You said there were so many shows and you have to be on your skates all the time. Let's say like your feet. Everybody who's been wearing skates, they know that the feet maybe don't feel that comfortable in the boot. And you just have the skates on almost the whole day, 12 months.
Yeah, you do have actually, let's put it this way, you have quite a few blisters on your feet. But you just work through the pain. It's a part of athlete's life. You always have aches and pains somewhere. And like for me, it was very important to get, checkup from physiotherapist or going to a massage therapist done over there, and just have, still have the healthy lifestyle. when you were working in the show. So it wasn't like it's just all parties like people think it is. It's just the longer you look after your body, the longer your career is.
I hear that. I hear that. What do you think? Do you combine, if you think about it, you're physically tired, do you think it affects the mental part also? That when you're really tired, let's say from your legs or for your body, was it more difficult to concentrate on the show?
Yeah, of course. For me, there's a couple of times you just sort of wake up in the morning in the bed and you just think, I can't do this today. You just think, I can't. And there's a lot of times you go over there, you get to the ring, you do your normal warm-ups. You're not probably putting as much energy into it. And you're just thinking, oh my God, here we go. What is this, the 185th show again? And you get in your dressing room and you put your first costume on and you put your skates on and you put your makeup on, you fix your hair and you go and stand behind that curtain and you think, here we go again. But as soon as the curtain opens and you look at the audience that actually just love watching the sport or the performance, so you just sort of snap out of it and you don't realize, you just give that 110%. And when you do that, the time flies so much quicker. I know some days you think, oh, I'm bored here. I'm not going to, put 110% here. And those days just dragged on too long for me. So I found it easier to just go full out. And then you go and, you can go home and rest for an hour or 2 hours and then you do it again.
I've seen this in theaters without skate. At one point I was actually working in theater and I saw these actors and actresses that it was really like this, that they were probably after so many shows, they were just so tired before the show. But when it started, then you really saw the professionals and it was marvelous to see that. So I guess this is what you really are talking about then.
It is.
Makes me smile here.
Yeah. Well, that's what it is. It's like an actor. You just sort of know, like, I feel sorry for the actors because they have to remember their lines all the time and they have to do the same thing, show after show after show. Luckily, I was, a skater. And if I was on the ice on myself, if somebody didn't work that day, I know I could change it. And it didn't matter then because I wasn't judged about if I did that difficult jump or if I did a different difficult jump. I was just over there entertaining, but I don't think actors can really sort of change their lines when they can't remember something. So I feel actually for them, I think they are absolutely brilliant and every respect for all the, the actors and actresses, because day in, day out, doing the same act, it must be mentally just, training.
Was this one reason that you actually stayed there so many years, that you were able to be so creative on ice? You were able to change, you made a little bit, maybe fixing your show. Did that keep you going?
Yeah, it kept your mind fresh. And the other thing too is why I decided to do the Hot Ice show in Blackpool was because I wasn't, well, this is not right to say, but I wasn't going to be Mickey Mouse for 16 years. And I wasn't going to be a tree at the back somewhere. It was just literally, I would be my own person. And I could actually be the creative and artist that I was hoping to be.
Nice. That's good. There's no certain role that you have to put yourself into. It feels really creative sort of a thing. But these wasn't the only shows, though, weren't the only shows you were doing. I read this, I don't know about it more, but I read that you, at some point, you pumped in the actress called Carol Smiley. Am I saying it right?
Smiley. Carol Smiley. Smiley, Carol Smiley. Good old Carol, yes.
I read it totally wrong, but Carol Smiley. Sorry, Carol, if you're listening. Tell me about that.
I did actually the original version of Dancing on Ice, which was for BBC, and it was a one-off special that they wanted to try off, and I was paired off with Carol Smiley, and we got along really well, and that was actually quite good. I had to teach someone how to skate. Well, it's almost like the Dancing on Ice, which most of the countries have, but it just happened to be on the ice. So, that was quite interesting to teach someone, and you knew that you only had like 3 weeks, them to actually set a number and learn to skate and do these tricks. So I did that one, and I done a couple other little shows, as well. But mostly I just stuck with Blackpool because I could actually have a house there and a place called home. When you're an athlete, you travel from A to B, or you live in a hotel, so you go to training camps, and you never don't have an address that somebody can actually write to you, or you don't have a same phone number that they can ring you. Those were the olden days. Now you can have a mobile wherever you go, and you got an email. So things have gone a little bit better.
What about you were 3 weeks, you were coaching Carol Smiley. Now I said it right, yes?
Yep.
Was this a start for your coaching career, or did you do it already earlier?
I did it a little bit earlier, and I was helping when I was working in Blackpool, where there's kids that needed some help, and the other coaches came and asked me for advice and some exercises and what works. So I sort of got the coaching bug a little bit over there. And for me, it was trying to choreograph a program with Carol, who wasn't the best skater in the world, to actually hide the faults and make her know what she was doing and feel comfortable. So for me to actually do that with the kids nowadays every day is, quite challenging to actually make them better.
You stopped your career in Blackpool and you started coaching. How did you actually end up in South Africa?
I used to go a lot of times on holidays to America when we had the couple weeks off that we had during the winter months, and I needed to go somewhere where it was warm, because as we know, the English weather isn't always the best during, January to December. We don't have the 4 seasons, or we don't have the, 2 seasons. So I used to go to America quite often for holidays just to get the sunshine and sort of re-energize myself. And I worked in one production over Christmas in England, and there was an actor called Christopher Biggins who travels quite a bit the world and been everywhere. And I asked him advice where I actually could go on holiday that would be warm, and he recommended South Africa. So I said, right. I booked my flight, came here, liked it, and decided to get a little holiday home in here, because I thought, well, that's not bad. I'll come and spend a couple months of the year here in the sunshine. When everybody is freezing, minus 20 or 30 in Finland, I'm going to be in sunshine over here. And when I came over here, it was the second year, and I walked to the ice rink, and I was asking to see a friend of my sister's. And they said, would you be interested in getting some skating lessons from this guy? And I went, actually, I'm a skater and a coach myself. And they said, really? I said, why don't you come over here and start teaching? Because we're looking for a coach. So it was the next day I had a meeting with the rink managers and the federation. And it was a couple of months later, I moved down here, and I've been here ever since then.
So it just happened like this?
It happened exactly how I finished competing and I went into the show. It happened so quick. And the same happened when I finished the shows and started teaching. So who knows what's my, next quick move is going to be and when it's going to be.
So how is it now? Is the future of figure skating in South Africa in your hands?
I think it's improved a lot, which I'm very glad. And one of the reasons I came here, because I wanted to have a challenge. I didn't want to go and move back to Canada or America and start teaching there, because I knew you could make money in there. But it wasn't about the money for me. It was more about the passion and making a difference. And for me to have a challenge for, to bring a country that's very unknown for winter sport. And I thought, well, that's actually a challenge for me, and let's see what I can do in a few years' time. And so far, so good.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like ring the bell right away, like, okay, South Africa figure skating. But I was checking out a little bit. well, a little bit more also the wonderful world of internet. And I found out that there actually has been already 1960. There were a couple of skaters from South Africa in the Olympics. Pat Eastwood and Marion Sage. I don't know, I say it wrong again, I guess, but
Yeah.
I hope I'm right.
That was before the part-time, because after that, they weren't really allowed to go and compete anywhere. And
yeah, I remember that.
yeah, and that happened. And it was in 1994, there actually was also 2 skaters from South Africa that made it to the Olympics. So since 1994, there's nobody going to be actually at the Olympics for South Africa. So I think not the next Olympics, but hopefully in 2022, we'll have somebody from South Africa, and hopefully you're going to be seeing them at the Kiss and Cry with me.
Yeah, you're in great big shoes at the moment. That's a good challenge for sure.
It is.
What about over there now? Do you do everything, or you spoke about the mental coaching and that people were helping you out, psychological coaching in USA? Are you the guy, or are you the man who's teaching these things to the kids, or is there somebody other person who's helping them out if they have problems with their mindset?
I can probably just sort of do the basics, but I'm not studied, I'm not gone to school, and I don't claim knowing it all. So I would actually, if I see there's more of an issue, a mental block with the athlete that is the nerves that they have to deal with or anything like that, then I would actually, send them to a sports psychologist, which they have a great place here in Capetown, actually, the Sports Institute, where they do have the top athletes over there doing all their training. And one part of it's, the mental training for these athletes. But to actually just find that one athlete that that you've got to send them over is just sort of talking to the parents and saying, do you know what, this actually is going to be a good idea. But, we'll just sort of see how it goes.
While coaching, what is your mentality? What are you teaching to these children?
For me, the first thing is it's got to be fun for them. It can't be hard work. And you can see some days that they're tired, then you just actually start triggering different mindsets in there and ideas for them to try something different. So they still are doing the training. So you sort of trick them a little bit to train hard, but they don't realize that that's what you're doing. So that is like, for me, it's always, you got to make it fun and exciting for the kids. As soon as it comes to routine and boring, then that's when they lose the interest. And then I feel that's when you get the injuries. And so for me, it's just keep it fresh.
Amen for that.
Yep.
Also, now you're coaching, you're enjoying your life in South Africa, but you went back to Blackpool. Can you tell us something about that?
Yeah, I thought that I was actually done with Blackpool, and I thought I'm not going to go back over there, and I might just go and see my friends. I have good friends and great friends over there in England. So I thought, no, I just need to carry on with my life and stick to this till I got a phone call to actually see if I was interested in doing the choreography for the show. And I knew I had big skates or shoes to fill, because the guy who used to do the shows for many years is quite well known, choreographer and well respected in UK, in dance world as well. So I just thought let me think about it. And again, I phoned the next day and says, you know what, I do like a challenge, so why not? And I've been doing it now for 8 years, and they seem to enjoy it, and so do the critics, and so do I, and so do the kids. So that's pretty good if we have a lot of happy people.
Happy people is always good.
Yes.
And you really seem to be a happy people, and I'm smiling here all the time when I'm listening to you, and I'm so happy. I'm thanking you so much for sitting down with me, even though we are a bit far off from each other. But this has been a great experience for me, and also it's so nice to hear about your sport, because all I've seen it used to play ice hockey, so I see a lot of figure skaters, but I've never been sort of inside the sport, and it's fascinating. It's really interesting. And of course, yourself opening up and telling about your things and your story here. I'm just privileged to hear this from you. I'm really happy about it.
No, it's almost been my pleasure. Actually, it's been great. But the only thing you have to do is you get me a drink when I come to Finland.
I will do that for sure. And this is a promise here in front of all the listeners. For sure, I will. You just let me know when you come to Finland.
Will do.
I have a couple of more questions.
No problem.
Then we are okay here. What is the single biggest challenge in your life at the moment?
At the moment, I think the biggest challenge right now for me is to get these kids to carry on with the sport and seeing that there's something more than the sport outside their life, and just teaching them to be, like I always said, make them as a better human beings, and you realizing that. But it's a challenge always to deal with children, because when you're older and wiser, I'm not quite sure if I'm wiser, but you can just give them some, advice. And it's just a frustration, because you see sometimes yourself in these younger kids, but you can't tell them off because you've done it exactly yourself, the same thing.
What about you? If you don't think about the kids, well, maybe you will, but what about you? What makes you get out of bed? What gets you excited and joyful? Like, let's say tomorrow.
Okay, well, you're not going to hear right now because I got the windows closed, but if I open, you could actually hear the ocean. So just listen to the ocean and taking my dog for a walk and just going over there in the sunshine and knowing that I'm going to sit in the sunshine, have a cup of coffee, and just being thankful that I'm alive. And I think that's, every day that I get out of bed, it's, whatever it takes.
Beautiful words. Beautiful. I was feeling the ocean here, even though I've never been in Cape Town. I think I have to come over.
Oh, you will. You're more than welcome. You got to.
Oh. Hey, thank you so much, Oula. It's been really a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much.
No problem, Tommy.